What's going on, guys? Hey, listen, man. This fast has been a roller coaster. For those of you who know, I've been on a fruit fast since August 2nd all the way to the 28th. Now, today's the last day of fasting, and I want to share something with you guys because my whole world completely shattered during this fast, right? I mean, like, what I'm about to share with you right now is literally unbelievable, in the trajectory of how I do things, how I live. Everything is completely changing because God has revealed something big to me. Now, I want to share this with you guys. Prior to this fast, I did another fast, right? And it was a 21-day fruit fast. And during that fast, I was I take fasting not as health, mostly focused on health, but focused on spiritual, getting closer to God, right? Connecting with God, building relationship with God, asking God for guidance and just, yes, pure guidance, right? What should I do? What do you want me to do? And during that 21-day fast, I asked God, I said, God, I'm done living the way that I want to live. I want to live for you. What do you want me to do, God? Like, I'm done trying to do it my way. Like, I want to live for you. I want the plans from you. What do you want me to do? And literally, I've been called to help men heal, right? Now, after I came out of that fast, I hit the ground running. And I instantly thought, I'm going to help men heal through yoga, through meditation, the holistic approach, right, to healing. Why? Because my spiritual journey, all the way back from when I started, has led me to all the things that I wanted to help men do, right? Now, I'm not going to denounce these things and say that they are wrong, but what I can say is God had a divine intervention with me, or I had a divine intervention with God and what I thought that I wanted to do, right? And what I thought he had planned for me. Turns out it's completely something different. I never saw it this way. The reason I got this cross around my neck is I'm going to explain it all to you, right? So let's go back, all the way back, before I started my journey, before I even get to here. How did I get here? I was broken. I was an individual. I was broke. I was looking for all the right things in the wrong places. What are you looking for? I was looking for the same thing as you: love, peace, happiness, joy, fulfillment. But I was broken years ago. And so that brokenness, I was finding that comfort through escaping with marijuana, smoking a lot of weed excessively, right? I thought it made me feel good, but ultimately it led me down a very dark road. It's why I'm completely against weed, because weed almost took my life. I kid you not. I contemplated suicide. I wanted to kill myself because I felt I had no purpose in this world. I felt nobody loved me. Nobody cared for me. But that was the devil. The devil's here to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's what he was doing. He was in my head, in my spirit. He was ready to take me out of this world. He had me convinced that nobody cared for me. He had me convinced that nobody loved me. He had me convinced that there was no purpose to live, no reason to live. He had me convinced. And it took for me to cry out to God and ask for his help. I remember looking in the mirror and asking myself, who are you? And I cried because I looked in my eyes and I was so lost. I did not know who I was. And I promised God, I said, God, I need your help. I don't want to do this no more. I was tired of it, but it was an addiction that had a stronghold on me and I could not let it go. I couldn't let it go, but it was destroying me. And I promised God, and I cried in the shower that night. I cried and I cried and I cried because I needed help. I needed help. And through that sparked my journey of self-discovery and healing and going on this journey of becoming a better individual. Now, it wasn't linear. I didn't just go from ground zero and just soar all the way to the top to where I am now. It didn't go that way. I had many pitfalls, many downsides, many things that I was destroying and messing up because I was on the journey, but it wasn't just from A to Z. I didn't just come out of the dark place and illuminate and I was this bright, beautiful being. No, I had to go on that journey. And this journey led me all the way down to discovering the journaling, discovering the meditation. Most of all, it started with working out and get my body right. But recently, these past few years, I've got more into the spirit because the more I discovered myself, I peeled back layers, every single layer. Oftentimes you ask, who are you? A lot of people say, well, I'm a brother, I'm a boyfriend, I'm a son. No, who are you? Well, I'm a good person. I pride myself on this, on that. No, who are you? Well, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a life coach. Well, no, who are you? Right? I eradicated all that. I stripped myself naked of everything and looked deep within and found who I was. And at the core of it, I realized I was nothing. Not in a negative light, but no thing. I could not attach to anything. My ego was dissolved. I broke free of the right versus wrong. I broke free of the trying to stay tough and hard. I broke free of all these identities that I was clinging to. But every time I cling to it, I realized that's not me. That's not me. That's not me. Who am I? I had to keep going back to that. And I realized it came all the way down to me being nothing, being naked, nothing but a soul on my journey. And now as I led myself all the way up to this path, God stopped me because I wanted to go further down this spiritual journey and get into healing work, right? Healing work, literally want to become an energy healer. But God divinely intervened and said, this isn't it. Stop. I told you that, yes, you're here to help men heal, but you hit the ground running and you want to do it your way. That's not the way, right? Now, as I'm trying to figure this out, my world internally is shattering because I'm like, all these years, God, all these years I put in of meditating and doing my yoga, God, this isn't the way. This isn't the way. And it's like, no, that's not the way. And what I'm gathering from it, as I'm going through this whole fasting, I'm getting confused, I'm getting sad, I'm getting mad because my thoughts are all over and I can't figure it out. But come to realize that it was God all along that had me, that had his hand over me. Now here, I'm going to share a story with you and show you how real God is. I believe it was November 5th. The day prior to November 5th, my car broke down. And I needed to use my dad's car. And so I had to drive with my dad to work that day on November 5th. Right? As we're driving, he's in the driver's seat, he's driving. He cuts the car off while we're driving. The car doesn't just stop in the middle of the road. We pull over to the side. I'm like, you all right? What's going on? He's trying to fiddle in with buttons, trying to figure stuff out, cuts the car back on, drives further down the road. We get closer to the business, to his place of business, cuts the car off again while he's driving. At this point, I knew something was wrong because he was trying to turn down the radio by turning down the air conditioner. So he thought the knob for the air conditioner was the radio trying to turn down the volume. So he starts the car back up and continue. At this point, I'm thinking he's playing a game with me, right? So we get to his place of business. He gets out the car, and there's a car coming past. He stumbles, like, dragged his feet, and it looks like he's almost about to get hit by the car. He looks sluggish, out of it. I'm wondering, is he playing with me or what is going on? So I call my mom up as he's going into his barbershop. And I said, Mom, have you checked on Dad this morning before you left for work? Is everything all right? Yeah, he seemed fine. Wow, what's going on? I said, I don't know. So he just seemed out of it. So I go into the barbershop. He has a couple clients sitting there waiting for him to open up the door. He went through one door, the back door, to get in. But he has to unlock this door to let his clients in. He sat there at that door. And he's figuring out which key. He doesn't know which key to open the door with. So I have to go up to him, I take the key, and he sits down. I open up the door, and I, let them in. I forget exactly the words exactly that I said, but pretty much addressing them, saying that he's not going to be cutting hair today. He's not, something's going wrong. I can't figure it out. We're going to take him to the hospital. So I look back, he's sitting in the chair, and he's asleep. Immediately, after I get them out of there, I put him in the car, and we take him to the hospital. We get to the hospital, I explain to these people what's going on. So after I explain to them, you would think that they will act with a state of urgency to get him help. But mind you, there's other people that came prior to us. Nonetheless, they're not in urgent need of help, but they're still taking them before my father. And I'm like, wonder what's going on. So long story short, here comes God. My aunt's on duty at the time. She comes downstairs. She's at this time, my dad's in the wheelchair. I brought him in, carried him in, put him on the wheelchair. He's in there, he's down. He's just sitting there, sleep. Eyes barely respond. He's like, right? I don't know what's going on. But in that time, I'm still trying to control myself, talk to myself, get myself through it. And she's picking up his hand doing tests because, she knows her thing when it comes to nursing. There's another lady on duty who knows my parents, who's the overseer of all the nurses. So we're able to bypass this line of all these people that sit here that don't really need help to get my dad that urgent help. But when we get him hooked up on this bed, he's sitting there. At this time, he's not responsive, still not responsive, nothing. And then I'm sitting there, I'm saying it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. My aunt, she's a nurse, so she's seen this plenty of times before. I'm seeing tears come to her eyes. I'm looking around, I'm seeing all the other nurses. And it's just like a face of hopelessness. Like, we've seen this many times before. We know how this is going to end out. I go lay next to him, while they have them hooked up to figure, while the other nurses are figuring out what they're going to do with him, right? So they figure out they're going to fly him to another hospital. So while we're sitting there waiting, I'm just sitting there next to him. I'm just rubbing his head and I'm talking to him. And, I'm just saying, everything's going to be all right. And he's talking to me as if he's going. And I mean, without going, like he's transcending this realm to go to another place. I don't know where, but he's like, he's speaking about, like he's in the air saying it's beautiful. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just like, at this point, I'm just talking. I got the meditation music next to head, just trying to calm his body down because I don't know what's going on. And so the helicopter gets there. And the lady says, usually they don't let nobody fly on the helicopter. But I went to him myself and asked him and spoke with him, right? And he let me fly. By the time we get there, COVID restrictions were still in place somewhat, right? This is in 2021. So by the time I get there, my mom drove all the way up there to that hospital, and she couldn't even see her husband. She didn't know that day was she going to see him again or not. And she wasn't even allowed to see him because I flew on the helicopter with him. And the way their visitation hours were set up, I was only there like 20 minutes until the visitation hours ended. And then they had to wait for another hour or two before the next visitation hours resumed. But being that I was there, you can only occupy this set of visiting hours or the second period. I was already there the first period, and it was ending in 15, 20 minutes. So I had to leave. And nobody could see him for that next visitation hours because I was already there. It was either one or the other. So we left not knowing what was going to take place. And all the doctors could say was, if you don't receive a call, then that's a good call, right? That means everything's going right. But the whole night we're talking, we're calling him, making sure, checking on him, staying up, aware. And long story short, what happened was my dad literally had a stroke that day. And that was God who broke down my car that day, the prior day, to make sure I caught him while he was going to work, to ensure that he got to the hospital on time, to make sure that my aunt was on duty. Another lady who oversees the nurses and has the power to make calls and move things around in order to get him the help he needed on time. And the lady at the other hospital said if he didn't get there in the time that he did, he might have not have made it. That's how I know how God is so powerful. I didn't manifest that. I didn't speak that into existence. That right there is what we call God. That is divine power. That is divine power. That is a testimony. And this is what led me even closer to God at this time. I used to believe in manifestation. I used to believe in thinking things into existence. I had a belief in God, but I never really believed in religion and the Bible and all these things. God has brought all this full circle for me to say to me, stop going down this spiritual path. Stop where you're at. What I want you to do is I want you to speak the word. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I told you before, I was always skeptical about religion. When it came to the Bible, I said, these people made this Bible up. This is why everything is happening in the world the way it is, because they made the Bible up, and the things that's happening in the world is just going along with the Bible. They made this up, right? All these things I had, religion. I'm like, if God is real, or I wouldn't say real because I knew he's real, but it's like, why is everybody clinging to religion? But religion is the biggest thing that divides everybody. I'm not understanding. Why is there such a big fight about God when God is about unity, right? So all these things. So I never got into the church. I never got into religion. I never got into the Bible. But somehow the Bible ended up in front of me. I started reading the Bible. Nobody told me to read it. God has brought me to a place where he's telling me that I want you to read the word. And I'm not here to bestow my beliefs or anything about God onto you. Likewise, I deserve the same respect to not, or for you not to impose your beliefs and what you think is right and wrong onto me. I'm not telling you the Bible is right or wrong. I'm not telling you the spirituality and what other people are teaching the spirituality is right or wrong. I'm just sharing with you. I had a divine intervention where God said, stop. We're not going down this spiritual path. No longer. We've got you to a point where I need to redirect you and equip you with the spiritual things that I need you to possess, which is within this Bible, the word. Now, I share that with you because as I'm going through this, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, God, wait a minute. I was doing the yoga. I was doing the meditation. This doesn't make any sense to me. Did that not work? Was that not working? Like, did that not do nothing for me? Because if I look back, I can't say it hurt me. And I can't say it didn't help me. Right? So at the same time, while I'm thinking all this, I'm like, this is what I want to help men, help. This is how I want to help men because I believe this is what helped me. So I'm having a shattering of my world. And I want to recite to you Matthew 16:25. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. So literally, as I'm going through this, I'm like, God's basically trying to tell me to lose everything I thought I knew. I'm humbling myself because I don't know, right? I don't know. This is something so new to me, right? I'm not here to teach it. I'm just here to say this is another path that God is leading me on to share with other people. He's saying to me, just like he said to me back when I was smoking weed, I had to lose that life of smoking weed and partying and drinking to save my life. And here I am again, ready to lose my life as a way of saving. So this is literally me stepping out on faith because nobody forced this on me. Nobody told me to read the Bible. Nobody told me to do these things. It's literally, this is what God has given to me. And I never saw myself reading the Bible. I never saw myself talking about the Bible. I never saw myself going down this path. This is all from God, given to me. And I'm not saying this is the right way to live or anything like that. This is just a part of my journey. And I think this is what God wants me to do to share with the world. So rather than speaking it in terms of spirituality, he wants me to speak the word. Right? And this is just what I've been given. Right? And so when I look at Matthew 16:25, it's like, whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. I'm losing everything I thought I knew and stepping out on faith, and perhaps I will find a new life. Another thing I want to bring home here is the awareness of spirituality and dark forces, because Timothy 4, I think chapter 4, verse 1, he says, the Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and will follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. So I'm not saying that the teachings of spirits that I've been acquiring is taught by demons, but I'm just saying that if we take a look around what's being taught out here, and it's like, this is what's happening. A lot of people are removing themselves from the faith and from the word, this Bible here, and having itchy ears, it says in this Bible, for their own passions. So seeking out things that fulfill their own passions and their own teachings by people who may not be real workers of the light. So I'm not saying, what people are doing, everybody in the spiritual realm, what they're doing is wrong and the Bible is right. I'm not saying that. I'm just putting all the pieces together and having a deep understanding of what is taking place in my reality. I just want to bring you into here to understand where I'm at. I feel like God is telling me to equip myself with God's armor, which takes me to Ephesians 6:12 through 18. It says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. Stand with the breastplate of righteousness in your place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. So he's saying this is the sword of the Spirit. So it's like, going back to how I talked about this spiritual journey, it's almost like God is telling me I need to make sure you are equipped. Because if you're not equipped, you can be defeated by these deep, dark, and demonic spirits that are out for you to conquer you. So basically, this is what I'm getting from it. Now that I've gotten to this point, God is saying go no further. I had thoughts of being a Reiki healer prior to even figuring out what Reiki was and how you even become equipped with it. I was having this divine intervention. I was saying, don't do that, right? This divine intervention saying, no, read the word, right? And so after that, I went and looked about Reiki, and I looked, there's a lot of people who are truly stepping away from New Age, stepping away from yoga, stepping away from meditation, right? Because they had encounters with demons. And literally, it caused them to turn. Some of them have been saved while they were in the practice of it. And I had no idea of this world of this information of New Age and turning to Jesus and all that prior to this. This whole divine intervention I had happened before I even discovered all that information. So that just connects the dots even further. Once I discovered that information, I'm like, this is definitely God working, trying to take me away from the spiritual path and put me into the word here. And again, I'm not saying this word is right. I'm not saying it's everything to live by. God is just telling me this is my next step. It's not the first, and it won't be my last step. This is just the next step into my journey. And so for everybody out there that's watching, I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. I'm not saying meditation and yoga and all this is wrong, but God told me to stop. God told me to turn the other way. God told me to pick. And the thing is, I didn't even buy this book. I didn't even buy this book, but somehow it ended up with me because that's how God works. I have so many encounters and testimonials, one about spirituality and also about God. All in all, I'm not saying don't do yoga or don't meditate. I'm not saying that stuff is wrong. I'm not saying your beliefs is wrong. You should believe what I'm saying. You should read your Bible. I'm not here to enforce any of that upon you. I'm just sharing my journey, and this is what God has delivered to me. God showed me my last fast that to help men heal. I went out and I tried to do it myself and try to go on my own and tell them and have a devised plan on what I thought was right for them to do to heal. God said, no, read the word. I'm not here to tell you that I know the word. I'm just here to say, do you want to join this with me? Do you want to embark upon this with me? If you're looking for God in your life, you feel like you need help, or do you want to embark upon this with me to just sit and read the word, to discover the word? I'm not here to push nothing on nobody, but I'm just here to say this is what God said. It's time for you to read the word. It's time for you to study the word. And it's time for you to equip yourself. For me, and for anybody else out there that's watching, this is my path. This is my next step. And this is what God has planned for me. All in all, I'm always about love. I'm always about positivity. I'm always about unity. So no matter what you believe in, what you do, I'm still going to love you nonetheless. I'm not going to try to denounce what you do. I'm not going to say you're dumb or you're stupid. None of that. So this next chapter is about discovering God and his word. And we'll see from there what's next. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.